morning, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Full Spectrum Education. It originally was called the Flashcast, but I think it's becoming a little bit more like a podcast now. So for those who are wondering what I'm talking about, definitely get in touch with the podcast and we'll be happy to fill you in why we're sort of pivoting a little bit on the name. But this week's episode, Magnus Olson's back. He's back with us to talk about everything M26Fit and everything else he's got going on. Mr. Robert Haugh and Mr. Serge Romano. For those who haven't been watching, Leverage Sales Coaching for Serge, he's the director, and then Robert Haugh down at Inspire Health Services, one of their passionate and innovative physios. Privileged and honoured to have everyone on the show today. Today's question is a bit of a barn burner. It can be a very controversial topic. May even I can see a lot of feedback coming out of this week's show. So, displaying courage and overcoming adversity in your day-to-day life, and or if something impactful happens to your life, how do you manage and find a way to strive forward? So, gentlemen, I actually might lead this week's show, and I've got something very passionate. I know I was talking off camera about how passionate I am about this week's topic, but I've got a story I want to share with you all. So it comes from a mentor of mine from, his name's Mr. Michael Crossland. So Michael, thank you for sharing this story with us all. So we all think we have a bad day, okay? Every one of us. I can sure that Serge, Rob, Agnes, we go back in the last month, we can think about our bad days. I want to share with you all a story. Michael was over at his orphanage, and he was speaking to one of the children that he looks after. Sorry about that, guys. There's a little bit of technical difficulty there. So he was speaking to one of the children that he looks after. So Michael has an orphanage. And Michael, if I got the story slightly wrong, please comment on the comments below and adjust. But I'm pretty sure I'll get this right. So Michael was having a conversation. He said to the young man, "What does a good day look like?" And he said, "Oh, to be honest, it's a great day every second day." And Michael's like, "Why is that?" And he couldn't really figure it out. And he goes, "Oh, well, I get a bowl of rice every second day." So all he got to eat every 2 days was a bowl of rice. But the reason this boy was so invigorated and so genuine and so excited and so happy was because at 12 years of age, he lived on the streets for 3 months, fighting for his life, living under bridges, staying away from wild animals, all this sort of stuff. But then Michael had the courage to ask him what a bad day looks like. Michael said, "Oh, would you be comfortable sharing this with me?" I'm paraphrasing, of course, but then the boy shared with him and he said, "Yeah, absolutely. No, a bad day is probably every night. It feels like a bad day." And he said, "Well, why is that?" He goes, "Well, it's a really bad, it's a bad day when it rains, especially, right? When it rains, it's a bad day because where I sleep, I have a tin shed over me and there's holes in it and it rains and, I get wet. But it's sort of hard at night because I get wet every night because the little boy that I sleep next to wets the bed." So this is a young man that, was, fighting those sort of challenges. And without jumping around too much and getting too far into the story, there's that same young boy and boys like him. I don't know if it was this exact boy or one of the boys out of the orphanage, but the story remains true. One of Michael's boys in the orphanage is now going to be on scholarship at a university and has been on scholarship and is about to graduate as an engineer. So he overcame those days to become the person that he's going to be in this world, which is a high functioning engineer who's going to make impact in this world and will have long-lasting impact for us all. The reason I want to share this with you all today is to say, when you're having the worst day that you believe you can have, fight, show courage, fight through that adversity, and you will win. You will come out the other side stronger, better, more resilient for it. Okay? So for those listening, if you're having a tough day, a tough year, a tough month, the three gentlemen in this podcast with me are very well positioned to add value, assist you, maybe even offer a helping hand. So guys, get in touch. Don't be afraid, reach out. So gentlemen, who's feeling like they'd like to share their sort of, I don't want to say tips, but I suppose their perspective next? Who would be up for going next?
Yeah, I'll go off the back of that. No, I think that's very powerful, Ben. I think that just shows the power of perception, and how perception, how you perceive things plays a role with adversity when you're exposed to it. It's definitely something that perception's always something I try and keep at the front of mind. When having those bad days, like I've been lucky enough, touch wood, I've never had really truly bad days like the young boy you described, or when you really put it into perspective, those bad days where maybe you have a bad day at work, or you have an argument with someone, or whatever the case may be, those are all just such small things in the grand scheme of it all when you consider what life could possibly be like in most cases. And that's something that I generally always try and reflect on a daily basis, and just have that bit of gratitude and practice a bit of gratitude every single day. And I think that absolutely is one of the keys to dealing with adversity. I think one of the other ways to deal with adversity is to prepare for it. And I think you can prepare for it. Adversity is, I would put it in another phrase, it would be termed as stress. Whether it's mental stress, whatever the case may be, when something stresses you, your cortisol levels build up, if we're looking at it from a scientific standpoint. There are ways in which we can, from a preparation standpoint, actually expose our body to high levels of cortisol. And how do we deal with those things? Through things like exercise, through things like visualization, all of those types of things, through mindfulness, through meditation. We can expose ourselves to all these things. And if you're exposed to it, you become more tolerable to it, you become more resilient to it. So I know personally, from my perspective, I know that I can deal with more and have the capacity to deal with more adversity when I'm training really hard and when I'm training really well. Physical stress within the body is dealt with in the exact same way that mental stress is. So you can expose yourself to physical stress more often, become more resilient and tolerable to it. You'll be able to handle more adversity and have the courage to be able to face it when the time comes. Yep. So that's an absolutely massive one for me. I think I just know that when I'm training well, I can, things that come up during the day, they don't bother me. And if they do, you just got to have that ability to reflect and have that perception of what's actually legit, what's actually a tough day.
Well said, Rob. Very tied in from your particular perspective from the health perspective there. Very, very well said. Serge, what are your thoughts on that one, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to take just a slightly different tack on this. Totally agree with what both of you have just said so far. And, the whole concept of adversity is that if you leave things the way they are, then nothing changes. So if you're in a position of adversity, it's not just going to go away, right? So you have to therefore have the courage to change things, whatever that may be. It might be something quite dramatic, or it might be something ever so small. But one of the mantras that I live by is, for me, courage is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay, so if you're going through adversity, then you might have to change a habit. And one of the pieces of advice that I have is, whenever I have gone through some sort of adversity, or that I want to change things, I want to be, courageous about something, it might be that I just change a behavior. I don't try and change my entire life overnight. You just try and change a little bit of your behavior. And one of the past podcasts, we've spoken about mental health and well-being and physical activity, etc. So if you're not doing something, maybe just go for a 5-minute walk and see if that clears the mind. And see, you'd be amazed at the things that you come up with and think about when you just go for a 5-minute walk alone, right? So, that's just an example. But the two things that I just wanted to, bring to the table here is, you don't overcome adversity by not doing anything. So you're the one that has to do stuff. And I often have spoken to my kids and colleagues and business colleagues, etc. And it's like, well, if you're in this position, then, the alternative to that is a much better position. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather that than stay where I am. So what do I need to do that? Now, if you can't do that on your own, here's the next bit of courage. And I'll leave you with this. Ask for help. You can't do stuff on your own. Okay. And the person that taught me that is another mentor that I've had, and they've got about 6 or 7 coaches. And it was really funny. I'll never forget, he was on stage and he was speaking about all things business. And he said, I've got 7 coaches, and not just business coaches, but life coaches and, all these sorts of different people. And I won't use the profanity, but he basically said, how dare you think you can do this on your own? And that really resonated with me. So if you are going through adversity, if you are having challenges, if you, are struggling to find the courage to do things, it's okay to ask somebody for help. And then start to change those habits, whatever that needs to do, to be. So that would be my thoughts.
Magnus, lucky last, my friend. What are your thoughts?
Wow, there are a few tough acts to follow and some great insights there. And just to touch on what you said, Ben, I was fortunate enough to interview a young man recently. He's the same age as my son, and 5 years ago he suffered a serious accident overseas, and as a consequence of that, he ended up with 2 big holes in the side of his head, and he went through world first surgery here in Brisbane to put some implants into his skull. He lost one of his legs above the knee, and he also lost the sight in one of his eyes. He's only got 20% vision left in his other eye, and he's deaf in one ear. And the courage and the resilience that this young man has overcome and still maintained a positive attitude throughout. And when I started to think about all of those various disabilities, any one of those disabilities would have been enough to put people into a spin. But for example, just if you've lost a leg, well, you could play wheelchair basketball, you could still maintain activity. He can't do any of that because of his sight. And so that's one of the things that's causing him the most amount of grief. But last week, this young bloke, earlier this year, he completed a 2K ocean swim up at Noosa, and he swims faster than I can swim. He's an incredible young man, and only last week he completed a 3-kilometre swim up north. So I think just getting around, when you think you're going through some bad things, there's always people going through a lot worse things than what you are. Personally, what I found helps is very much a little bit what Serge said. It's those daily habits, and maintaining the strong daily habits and any level of physical activity, I found certainly goes a long way in clearing my mind, and also just to try and have a focus on the long game. Nothing lasts forever. If you're going through some bad times, it's going to get better. But again, off the back of what Serge said, you need to do something. And absolutely getting that team around you and having a network around you on people that you can have conversations with. One of the things that got me through some dark times, I played team sport, and just getting together with those boys in the locker room every week, banter, just found it to be just a great way. Activity and connection would probably be the 2 things that stand out for me that have helped.
Yeah.
For me, I think we've all said it well. Relationships, purpose, and reflection. So, guys, if you've connected with anything that the 4 of us have said in this episode, please get in touch. As once again, you can tell we're very passionate about serving, impacting, and helping others. So for anyone who wants to reach out, whether you're in a tough time, whether you know someone, to be honest, whether you just want some tips for next time you're in an adverse situation, please reach out, guys. And till next week, stay safe, have a great week, and see everyone next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.